Hi everyone, today we will be talking about our county's acceptable use policy, also known as an AUP. You may be asking yourself, what is an AUP? AUP stands for Acceptable Use Policy, and according to Margaret Roos, an AUP is a document stipulating constraints and practices that a user must agree to a corporate network or an internet. So in our case, it's teachers and other employees agreeing to these constraints and practices through Baltimore County. Why do we have it? Its main purpose is to protect any user and the county when it comes to technology use. So I went to Baltimore County's website and pulled the employee AUP, and I want to give you guys a brief overview of what is expected of you. First, let me just say that when you start your year, you really should go look at the AUP and read it word for word just to make sure that you're not doing anything that you shouldn't be doing, especially for us employees who bring devices home and work from home on different things that we need to get done for work. So the first thing, you should respect each other's privacy as well as copyright laws, comply with all board policies as well as school system procedures. You should report anything that threatens privacy or safety of anyone. So if you know of any employee that's currently working for Baltimore County and they have threatened someone's privacy or safety, you need to report that. You need to report any violations. There should be no wrongful disclosure of personal or confidential information, and report any theft or loss of Baltimore County Public Schools technology to them so that it can either be found or a ticket can be put in for the theft. If you are found to break any of the rules on the AUP, once again, this is not all of the rules, so when you get a chance, I would go back and look at the AUP. But if you are to break any of those rules, your consequences could be that you lose access to any or all Baltimore County Public Schools technology, including their networks. You can be terminated, and if need be, legal action will be taken by the county. Just so that there is a clear understanding, I wanted to list all of the things that Baltimore County says that employees shall not do while they are using Baltimore County technology. Some of these you may think are common sense, but they still happen if they're on the AUP document. The first one is bypass school systems web content filter. So if the web content filter pops up on your screen and you bypass it, that is something that could get you in trouble. No pornographic or sexual explicit images or language, no wrongful communication. Do not enter unauthorized computer networks. Do not use the computer for personal use. Do not share any of your personal logins. Do not incur unauthorized financial obligations. Do not knowingly download viruses. I know we have had a few incidences in the county where the viruses have been happening by accident. That is fine, but if you know you are downloading a virus, then you can get in trouble for it. And the last one, do not access someone else's information without their permission, which is also an invasion of privacy. Next up, I will talk about the students' AUP. So not only is there an AUP for employees, but there's also an AUP for students. The students' AUP tends to follow the employees' AUP a little bit, but it is different in the fact that it's laid out differently, and they've added some different content based on what the students are using the technology for versus the teachers. So what is expected? Like I said, it's very similar to the employees' AUP, but it's laid out differently. All students should use technology in a manner that is responsible, legal, and appropriate. Use of technology for education purposes only. So no matter which technology the students are using, they're using it for education only. They are responsible for their behavior while they're on the internet and anything else they may be doing on the technology. Illegal activity is prohibited. And parents have the option of opting out when it comes to their child using technology. So watch out for your students who have parents who have opted out. For the consequences, if students are found breaking any of the rules that are on the student's AUP, they could lose access to Baltimore County Public Schools technology and or the networks. They could have disciplinary action come from the school or the Board of Education. And then the last one, they could have legal action. So the same things go for students as for employees that work for Baltimore County. So like I said, the students' AUP is broken up into different sections. So I just quickly and briefly wanted to show you the different sections and how many there is. So these are I believe there's 11 of them, 11 sections of the Baltimore County's AUP for students. I won't read them to you, but if you want to take a minute to look over them, go ahead. And then where can you find our AUPs for the county? I have included both links. The top link will take you to the employees AUP, and the bottom link will take you to the students AUP. You can also give the link of the students AUP to parents so that they can go on and they can read it and be aware of what their students are responsible for when they're using Baltimore County's technology. So I know some of you are probably thinking of how do you show or explain the AUP to parents, students, and other staff that are working in the building. So as far as other staff who may be in and out of your classrooms or working around you in any way, I would direct them to the office for the office to cover the AUP with them, but I would also give them the link and encourage them to go back and look at it because they're just as responsible for looking at the AUP as any other staff member is. As far as parents, when the handbook goes home each year in the beginning of the year, it has all the guidelines of the AUP, and the students have to sign it, and so do the parents. So I would remind parents that it is in the handbook and that it is very important for them to go over the AUP with their students so that they are aware of what their students are responsible for, and the students are then made aware. I would also make parents aware that they do have the opt-out option. So if they don't want their students using the Baltimore County technology at all, they can opt out of it. I know some of you are probably thinking of ways that you could implement the student AUP into your classroom and being sure that when students are in your classroom and they're using the technology that they are following the rules on the AUP. So for suggestions for implementing it, I would review all expectations of the AUP in the beginning of the school year. I would probably spend about a month because it's so much information and so many sections to it. So I would break it down over the course of a month. I would also create a shorter version of the AUP and post it somewhere in your classroom close to the device carts. I know at our school here we have the device carts that have all the students' devices in it. So I would post the shorter version of the AUP near your device cart. For intermediate, I would remind the students of the Digital Citizenship ISTE Standard 5.2. They should have learned it by now, if not from their previous teachers, then in library. If you have primary students, I would go over the ISTE Standard 5.2 and teach them or model for them what it would look like so that they're aware of what they're responsible for when it comes to that standard. And my suggestions on how to make sure it's being followed, maybe have a student in the class report to the teacher at the end of each day after they check their peers periodically throughout the day while they have tech time or while they're on their devices during centers for reading or math. And it doesn't need to be necessarily tattletaling, but it can be The students just randomly get up and walk around to make sure their peers are really on task. Because if you are teaching a small group lesson, you can't get up from the small group table to go make sure the rest of your students are on task. So I would say a peer could do this. I would also make the students aware that all that they do on the computer is being tracked, and at any point in time, any adult or any of the board members can pull their history and see where they've been and how long they were doing it. So this might scare them, per se, to stay within the guidelines of the AUP and follow what you're telling them to do. So if you're telling them to get on Dreambox during this time, then they're on Dreambox during that time. Because if they go out of Dreambox and their history is pulled, it will tell us the time that they were on it and how long they spent on it. Moving on. All right, how to, as a teacher, follow the AUP. So ways to keep yourself accountable. First, I would go through and I would read the AUP word for word, and I would make note of the do's and the don'ts to be sure that you are following the guidelines when using the county's technology. If you are doing something and you're unsure if it's wrong or right, I would just double check the AUP. The employee one is very short and to the point, so it would take literally seconds for you to look at it and make sure you're not breaking any of the rules. If you still have questions about AUPs, you can always come to me. My door is always open, and you all should have my email. You can also go to the county's AUPs, the sites that were mentioned on slide 7, or you can reference this site, and I will send you guys this presentation when we're finished today, so that you will have the different sites to look at your leisure. Okay. And this last slide is just the references that I use. So the site for you to use if you need more information on AUPs is right here. Okay. If you need to look at the ISTE standards, I mentioned 5.2 during the slide, then you can go here. If you want to reference Miss Ruth's definition of what an AUP is, then you can go here. Okay, and once again, I'll send this to you so that you have all of the links and all the resources on it. And you can always email me, you can always stop by my office, whatever you need to do. I hope that this was useful to you guys. And don't forget to go look at the AUP and read it word for word so that you know your do's and your don'ts when it comes to using Baltimore County's technology. Have a wonderful day.